that you need to lubricate are these little pins inside here, these rollers. So what people do is they keep looping the chain. They think it's the right thing to do before they go out for a ride. And what happens, the dirt from the road collects on the excess oil, makes the chain really nasty, gets the gears filled with grease and dirt, fills the rear derailleur and the front derailleur. It will only cause future problems. What I do when I lube my chain, and the way we teach people when we deliver a bike, is to put the chain lube on literally on the center of the chain where those rollers are. Then, after we lubricate the chain, spin it a couple times, let the oil work itself into those pins, and then take a rag and wipe the excess off. And you have to do this several times. This is a brand new bike, and you can see how much dirt has just been sitting on it. Probably some of the packing grease. So not only am I cleaning my chain, but I'm also lubricating my chain at this point. So again, I'll do this probably 2 or 3 times until I start getting the rag to come out clean. And once I get the rag to come out clean, not only have I lubricated it, but I also now have cleaned it as well. And that's probably the most common mistake. If we have, what we offer here is unlimited checkups when you purchase a bike from us. We'll adjust the shifters, we'll adjust the brakes, we'll do a comprehensive safety check on the bike for as long as you own the bike. And that's if you take reasonable care about it. You'll never need anything else for at least 2 years unless you wear out a tire. Chain life, those kind of things are usually pretty good for going into your 2nd year. But the most common thing is once those chains get dirty, then everything else starts wearing out. The gears start wearing out, the chain starts wearing out, everything starts deteriorating in a much quicker.
How often should we do that?
Yeah. What I recommend, again, it depends on how much you ride and what conditions you ride. If I'm riding my mountain bike, then I'm doing it probably every time that I ride because I'm in pretty adverse conditions. If I'm doing my road bike, geez, I may go a month. But to answer your question, probably 2 to 3 weeks. Somewhere in that range. The oil will stay pretty good. A lot of times on my week 2, I'll take a rag and I'll wipe it off. Still, I won't add any additional oil. All right, guys, we're running close on our time. I don't think there's too much more.
One thing you might mention is like the brake use of them, because some people will pull on one and catapult over their.
Yeah, that is true. I always, especially when we teach mountain bikes, we go right as rear, R as R. And that's the one that we use, that's our primary braking, is right as rear. And when I used to race mountain bikes, and still what I teach today, is that on a mountain bike, I used 3 fingers to pull the brake lever in, and on the front, 2 fingers, or even just reach with 1, because I want less pressure on my front. The problem is, normally I would say, you're probably only going to use the rear brake most of the time. The problem is, as we brake, all of our weight goes to the front wheel. So it unloads the back wheel. So if you try to brake too heavily on that back wheel and the back wheel alone, then you kind of get this kind of thing going for you. You can get some skidding. So what I recommend is to brake as I'm going before I get into the turn, so that the speed that I'm turning with is the speed that I know I can control. Because I've had an occasion where I got into a turn a little bit too quick, and I applied a little bit too much front wheel, and the front wheel started skidding out from underneath it. So you want to learn how to apply the front brake, and you want to apply the front brake again very, very lightly, because that is where 75% of your braking comes from, is your front wheel. And you do have to watch the rear wheel, but right is rear. Just remember that. Always start with the right brake first. Any other questions? I certainly can entertain any questions individually, or show you pedals, or any of that kind of stuff
Bill?
as well. But
Just a quick word on hydration, because we want everyone
yes.
here to have a water supply.
yes, you'll notice that on my bike, we don't have them on any. A new bike doesn't come with them, but on my bike, I've got 2 cages and I've got big bottles. That's really something that's absolutely critical. I give you just a quick little spiel on nutrition. And I'm sure you guys probably have your own clinics on nutrition, but what my general rule of thumb is, I want to go through a 24-ounce bottle each hour that I'm on the bike. That's a minimum that I want on a bike, and I'll carry 2 cages with me, 2 bottles. At the 45-minute point in a ride, you can only store 45 minutes of glycogen, and that's the fuel for your ride. So that whether you're doing a marathon or a long ride or whatever it might be, at the 45-minute mark, you need to get some form of fuel in. The Cytomax or any heat or any of those electrolytes, those are critical too. I'll talk about those in a minute. But they don't really provide the carbohydrates that you need to sustain anything beyond that 45-minute mark. So you might carry a gel or something with you, and think about doing something at the 45-minute mark. Electrolytes, the hydration thing, I think we probably all read about that military person who was training, and over the course of his 6 hours of training drank nothing but water, and he drank a ton of water. Well, he washed all the electrolytes out of his body, and he died. The reason that that's important is because, and I don't remember this from exercise phys class, but when a muscle reacts, it's ADP to ATP, I think. Anybody? Anyhow. When that happens, it's actually like an electrical trigger that makes that muscle work. And it requires that magnesium, potassium, sodium. It requires those things that are in your electrolyte mixes to make that happen. And when you can no longer trigger the muscles or trigger the brain, they all start to shut down. That's why it's important for you to have something a little bit more than water. Oftentimes what I'll do is I'll take water in one bottle, and I'll take heat or Cytomax or something like that in the other bottle. But hydration with an electrolyte product. Find which one works for you. Find which one is not uncomfortable for your stomach, and use it. Okay?
Great. Thank you.